Good evening. You are listening to the Fumblerooski podcast by Power 88 Dean Radio. I am Adam Wright along with Justin Tucker and CJ Medeiros. So our school is all moved in at Dean College. So we all had our move-in day, me, Justin, and CJ. And I got to say, we're not exactly ready for classes just yet. And first day of classes is tomorrow on Wednesday, as this episode is being recorded on Tuesday. How do you guys feel about that we have classes literally tomorrow?
I'm not happy.
I wish they would give us like a day just to reassimilate, but no, we're hitting the ground running.
Yeah, so I was living in a completely different dorm. I was in this apartment complex called the Condos, or the Franklin Commons, over a little bit off campus, and I just moved. So that was a little bit of extra work, and it's hard to compute that we actually have school. But anyways, we do have a show planned that we should talk about, and we have a lot planned for you guys tonight. The wild card matchups are all finished up. Divisional round matchups are set, and we do have, as always, the fan box in an alternate form of our Sunday's best, as I mentioned before. But let's start out with the Bengals and the Raiders, where Cincinnati won their first playoff game in 31 years. All right, so Cincinnati beat Las Vegas 26-19 in their first playoff victory in 31 years. We spoke about this team earlier in the year as contenders in the future, in a couple of years' time. But what if they're contenders, right now, like this postseason? I picked this team to lose in the first round. I thought they weren't quite ready. They have a glaring weakness on that offensive line, but it's proven that if that front seven for the opposing team isn't their strength, then Cincinnati doesn't struggle quite as much. And we saw that against Las Vegas. I mean, they do have Max Crosby, but they really weren't able to get to him as much as we thought they would. And so what do we make of the Cincinnati Bengals right now?
They're contenders because they're in the playoffs. I will have to give them credit for surviving as long as they did. They finally broke their 31-year playoff winless streak last Sunday, so congratulations to them begrudgingly. With that said, they are contenders because they are still in the playoffs and they're still in the dance. I didn't think they'd be in the dance as of right now. I thought the Raiders were going to win, but hats off to them. It angers me that they're still around, but yeah, they can be considered contenders, but I don't expect them to make it past the divisional round against Tennessee.
Yeah, I'm used, I just can't wrap my head around the Bengals being contenders. I'm used to them being terrible, but hey, Joe Burrow is that guy. I mean, they call him Joey Franchise for a reason. And look at that offense: Joe Mixon, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, C.J. Uzama. These guys can drop 21 at the drop of a hat. And I mean, I know you guys were kind of treating the Cincy Vegas game as more of a coin flip. I was a bit more certain of my pick of Cincinnati, but honestly, yeah, I'm not shocked they beat Vegas just because of that offensive firepower. However, do I think they're going to go all the way? Probably not. I would say that I do expect them to get eliminated, against the Titans, because defense wins championships, and I am not impressed with their defense. And if they have to go up against a team, like Justin mentioned, where their front seven is their strength, I'm really not gonna expect a whole lot from them, considering the fact that Titans have game wreckers like Harold Landry and Jeffrey Simmons up front. Just my thoughts.
So I thought, like I said before, when we first started this segment a couple seconds ago, I did not see this team going very far, even if they got past the Raiders, just because that offensive line is it needs so much work. And I thought they're really close. They're a good offensive line away from being legitimate contenders in this league. And it turns out, it's not, maybe it's not as much of a weakness as we think it is. And it's one of those offensive lines where, yeah, if they go up against a good front seven, then then they'll end up struggling. But I didn't see much issue on those front lines, that offensive line versus that front seven. I really didn't see an issue with that. So, this Bengals team will go as far as the offensive line will allow them to. But as soon as there's issues, I pointed out a statistic when I put out my bracket that the Cincinnati Bengals, in games where Joe Burrow is sacked 4 times or more, they're 2-4. And that one game, and one of those 2 games was in week 1, where the Vikings lost on a chip shot field goal that they should have made. So it's not like the wins they're getting are legitimate. Well, there was the Chiefs game where he was sacked 4 times and was able to beat him. That was legit. But the other one, so they technically should be 1-5 when he's on his ass half the time. So, yeah. But anyways, I think now that they have the Titans coming up, man, that's actually going to be a good game, because their the Titans front seven is good, but I mean, it's not among the elite. So Cincy could actually they could make this a game. I actually could see it.
I hope not.
So you hope not, or is that what? Give us your unbiased opinion, Justin. Take the Ravens bias out of it.
If I take the Ravens bias out of it, they have the potential to beat the Tennessee Titans, because I don't believe Tennessee is absolutely healthy right now. If Tennessee was fully healthy, then yeah, I believe it's a foregone conclusion in that one, because I don't believe that line will be able to protect Joey Burrow the entire game. And I think that game will be a lot closer than it was for the Raiders, because I don't know if they can stop Derrick Henry. I think Derrick Henry is back now, and I'm not sure if he's 100%, but an 80% Derrick Henry is still giving me 100 yards of production. So with that said, if they can't stop the run, it's going to be a long day for them. That means the Tennessee Titans have more possessions than the Bengals have, and there's going to be more problems for them. They do have the potential to win, but I don't expect them to.
Yeah, sure thing. But we'll have to wait and see, and we will preview that game in a few minutes when we get to it. Actually, we're going to get to that next, where we preview the AFC matchups for the divisional round. Stay tuned. You're listening to the Fumblerooski podcast.
Screw the Bengals.
This is the Fumblerooski podcast by Power 88. I'm Adam Wright with Justin Tucker, CJ Medeiros. We're on to the divisional round in this year's football season, and it has been a very good year. But here we're going on to the AFC, where we have 2 very intriguing matchups that will be happening this weekend, which will be Buffalo at Kansas City and Cincinnati at Tennessee. So, guys, give us which of these matchups you're kind of most intrigued by, so to speak.
CJ?
Thanks, Justin. Appreciate it. So for me, I'm most intrigued by Buffalo and Kansas City. This is obviously a rematch last year's AFC Championship game. This, to me, I know it's not the 1 seed in this game, but I feel like it's a real clash of the Titans. You have 2 like the bright stars of the future in Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert, both of whom are coming off 5 touchdown games where they obliterated their opponents. And, I mean, we always talk about the unstoppable force versus the immovable object. This feels like unstoppable force against unstoppable force. 2 high-flying offenses about to collide head first and, just may the better team win. Now, the reason this game intrigues me is Buffalo's defense. Yeah, they lost Tre'Davious White, and it hurts, but they still have guys like Levi Wallace and Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer patrolling the secondary. And their front seven isn't great, but it's solid. I mean, they've got a good group of linebackers with guys like Matt Milano and Tremaine Edmonds. And, up front, you've got Ed Oliver, big run stuffer. And, you got guys like Jerry Hughes coming on the edge, which helps. But I like Buffalo's defense infinitely more than I like Kansas City's. Kansas City's defenses look really weak at times, and which is weird because Kansas City's defense kind of has the whole Jekyll and Hyde thing going on, where sometimes they're the only reason Kansas City's in a game, and other times they're getting walked all over. But if they could shut down Stephon Diggs, Josh Allen might have to spread the ball around, and that could hurt them. But that being said, I still like Kansas City just because it's just their offense is just a bit more explosive than Buffalo's. And also the Kansas City pass rush is way better than Buffalo's. And if they can keep a lid on Josh Allen's mobility, he's going to have to air it out, and hopefully your secondary can win the battle. But this game, to me, definitely feels like a coin flip. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I agree. I think this is going to be a clash between two franchise quarterbacks, one being Josh Allen, one being Patrick Mahomes. I believe the winner of this will take precedence over the other because in the AFC Championship, Patrick Mahomes basically walked over the Buffalo Bills into the Super Bowl, and Josh Allen walked over the Kansas City Chiefs in the regular season this year. So I believe that this will let them show the world who is a top-tier quarterback and who is beneath them right now. Because as great as Patrick Mahomes has been, as of lately, he doesn't seem that special right now. As for the other matchup, I'm actually more interested in the Cincinnati versus Tennessee game. I actually want to know if Derrick Henry is Derrick Henry of old. I want to see how that Tennessee defense matches up against the Cincinnati offense because I'm not sure that the Tennessee defense has the weapons in the secondary that the Cincinnati Bengals have on the offensive side of the ball. I think they're going to have to double team Jamar Chase. But if you do that, who's going to handle Tyler Boyd and who's going to handle T. Higgins? And those are the questions you have to figure out at the end of the day. I'm not going to let Jamar Chase beat me. The other two receivers have to beat me. And Joe Burrow is going to have to throw up tough balls for everybody else to answer. And so that's the matchup I'm looking forward to the most.
So this is certain. So I'm actually going to double up with Justin here because I feel like Buffalo and Kansas City, that's a game where I mean it's pretty straightforward. It's a coin flip on who wins. But Cincinnati at Tennessee, it could go any way. I could see either team just running away with it, and I could also see it going down to the final play. I really don't know how this game is going to go because we're still trying to figure out what Cincinnati is. We thought they were a team that was kind of, they put up big numbers, but they're not really ready to contend. But then they just won the other day, and they weren't even, they weren't even fazed by their lack of production at the offensive line. Actually, the offensive line was fine. So, and Tennessee also they're not known for bringing pressure. So you wonder how these two offenses are going to match up, and if one is going to be able to contain the other. So Cincinnati has become one of those teams where we really don't know what they are. They could end up in the AFC Championship, the Super Bowl maybe, but we're still figuring out what they are. I kind of know what Tennessee is. They're that one team that is able to make some noise during the regular season, even during the postseason. But eventually, they're going to meet their match. Who punches them in the mouth? It's happened every year where they've been in the postseason, and I feel like that's going to happen at one point or another. So I'm really interested in this matchup. I think this is going to be a good one.
Yeah, a bit on the Bengals and Tennessee. I know you said Tennessee's not a unit that's known for bringing pressure, but when you look at it, they have two absolute game wreckers up front with Harold Landry and Jeffrey Simmons. This season, the defensive tackle Jeffrey Simmons, I believe, has 8.5 sacks, and Harold Landry, I believe, has 12. And when you look at the Bengals O-line, I remember when I was watching the Bengals and Raiders go, the commentators commented that the left side of the Bengals O-line is really strong with Williams and I forget the name of their left guard, but the right side of their line is honestly god awful. And if you could overpower that right side and you could put Burrow on the ground, he'd probably be able to hit Chase while he's being sacked, I think. And this comes with the fact that I trust the Titans defense more than I trust the Bengals defense. I really do. And, they also have guys like Kevin Bayard in the secondary. You have Rashaan Evans, the linebacker, and Jayon Brown, another good linebacker. But when you look at the Cincy defense, a defense that's known for struggling against the run, they have to go up against the boss man himself, King Henry. And who are you going to put on A.J. Brown? And even Julio has shown he still has a little bit of gas left. So I feel like the Titans are just, I don't know how to put it. They just seem more solid than the Bengals. The Bengals have amazing highs and just deadly lows. And for that, I'm leaning toward the Titans, frankly.
I still think it's a coin flip because I think you're also underselling the Bengals defense. Like, yeah, the Titans defense has a lot of pieces, but so do the Bengals. Trey Hendrickson, Eli Apple's been having a decent year. I'm forgetting about the other kid.
Yeah, but I
on
trust the
opposite
Titans
side of
line
him.
more than I trust the Bengals, though. Also, it doesn't matter who your linemen are if Derrick Henry runs you over.
Sure, but it doesn't matter who your defensive backs are if Jamar Chase is blowing past you or the T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd's of the world.
It doesn't matter if they're blowing past you if Burrow's on his butt all the time. But, we'll agree to disagree. We'll see come game day.
Yeah, we'll see come game day. But anyways, we're going to move on to the divisional matchups where we will preview them. So we'll be right back for that. Don't go anywhere. This is the Fumblerooski podcast. This is the Fumblerooski podcast. I'm Adam Wright with CJ Medeiros and Justin Tucker. We are on to the NFC Divisional Round. And for the NFC, we have a couple of juicy matchups, starting with San Francisco at Green Bay, assuming that San Francisco has all their pieces at their disposal, and followed by Los Angeles at Tampa Bay. So, guys, same as last segment where we previewed the AFC matchups. Which of these matchups are you most intrigued by?
Oh, this is a tough one. This is actually a tough one. This is harder than the AFC because all four teams are legitimate. I feel have legitimate chances of going to the Super Bowl. The one I want to see the most is the Green Bay versus San Francisco game. I just like the dynamics. The 2019 NFC Championship game between these two, I saw a run game that the Green Bay Packers just could not stop, like at all. Raheem Mostert had a day, over 200 yards rushing and I want to say 4 touchdowns. He could not be stopped that day. And it's not something that the Packers have been successful at stopping the run. And as you saw against the Cowboys, they can rush from a myriad of directions with Elijah Mitchell, Deebo Samuels. They have a myriad of weapons at their disposal. So the Green Bay Packers cannot stop their, because that's how good they are at running the ball. However, the problem for the San Francisco 49ers is they're not the Green Bay Packers aren't beat up as they used to be. They have Jair Alexander coming back, and they have Zadarius Smith coming back. Two all-pro caliber studs coming back at the right time to help that defense finish strong and help advance them to the NFC Championship game. So I think this is going to be a battle. I think this is going to be a nip and tuck game. And I don't think it's going to be easy on Aaron Rodgers either because that pass rush ain't no joke. Just ask Dak Prescott last Sunday about that pass rush of Nick Bosa and Tariq Armstead. And so I hope it's a great matchup, and I hope Green Bay wins.
Yeah, Justin, I agree. Also, one thing about the Green Bay game is that they just also happen to have David Bakhtiari back for them for the O-line. He should help keep Nick Bosa at bay. So there's that. Now, for me, I personally like the Tampa and LA Rams game because think about it. This is obviously a rematch of earlier this season where LA waltzed right up to Tampa Bay and smacked them around. And if you ask me, LA's only gotten stronger. They lost Robert Woods, but now they have Odell Beckham. And on top of that, they have Cam Akers back, who's running like his old self as he was last week. And what's interesting about Tampa is they just happen to be short-handed. No Antonio Brown, no Chris Godwin. We don't even know if playoff Lenny's going to be there. But if you're going to run with Keyshawn Vaughn, no, Aaron Donald's going to eat that up. And you have guys like Jalen Ramsey who's going to have his hands full with Mike Evans. But Mike Evans, I'm hearing, is still a little banged up. So Ramsey might have the upper hand there. And, Gronk's always someone to look out for. But playoff Brady, we all know, is a different animal. But the Rams beat them before, and they've only gotten better since. And I would argue that they can do it again. So, and look, everyone listening knows I'm a Tom Brady fan. This isn't necessarily easy for me to say, but I kind of like the Rams in this matchup. And, if any of you want to chime in, tell me I'm wrong, go right ahead.
You mean the
You're wrong.
That lost to Eli Manning 2 times? Yeah, that beast.
You hurt me.
He won 7 Super Bowls. Give me a break. All right. But I'm actually the same way with the LA Rams at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm a little nervous about this game because I think that the Rams have what it takes to beat them, and they've already beaten them twice during Tom Brady's tenure there. They're just a team that matches up very well with the Buccaneers. There you have 3 players who are capable of beating any offensive line and getting to the quarterback in Von Miller, Leonard Floyd, and Aaron Donald. And they have 2 very good defensive backs where if you're able to pressure Tom Brady and force him to throw an imperfect ball, where they're able to make you pay for it. So that's a team where I really think whenever they have a really solid offense front 7 and they're able to pressure Tom Brady, that's usually when the Buccaneers are in trouble. And that's something that I'm really nervous about. The only reason I still have the Buccaneers going to the Super Bowl is out of respect for Tom Brady because I'm just done betting against him. But this is a team that that on the other side is the same way. They have a great front 7, and they still have a very capable secondary. And I think the Buccaneers are going to be able to make more plays, and they have the quarterback to do it.
Sounds like the typical Brady lover himself.
I'm just saying, you have Matthew Stafford against Tom Brady at a big stage. Tom Brady's going to pull it off, and Matt Stafford is going to crack, and that's what's going to do it. But I wouldn't put it past them to lose this game either, because the Rams have proven to be a very bad matchup for them. But anyways, up next we are going on to what I believe is the Sunday's Best. Is that correct? Yes, we are. So Sunday's Best is coming up, and you're not going to want to miss this one. You are listening to the Fumblerooski podcast. This is the Fumblerooski podcast. I'm Adam Wright with Justin Tucker and CJ Medeiros. So, pardon my mistake, but actually, I just remembered Sunday's Best is over. But this week we are giving you Wild Card's Best, which is the same thing, except we're picking the best game out of all the Wild Card round games. Which is where we review the best matchup from the wild card round, and we pick the most thrilling, entertaining game for you guys every week now, including the postseason. So our wild card's best pick was, drum roll, 49ers at Cowboys. So
yes, sir.
This was a game where going into it, a lot of people were very skeptical just because it was the Cowboys. Even though the 49ers only had, a 10-7 record. They finished 2 games worse than the Cowboys. Everybody was like, and boy, were they right to feel that way. So the 49ers had the lead the entire game, including a 23-7 lead towards the end of the third. The Cowboys then scored 10 points in the fourth and got the ball twice in the last 2 minutes. They pulled to within 6 at 23-17. So a one-score game, a touchdown and an extra point takes the lead. In the final seconds, with the ball, slightly past midfield, Dak Prescott decides to do a quarterback draw. They get about to the 25-yard line, and they were unable to get a snap off in time for the play. The ref actually wasn't able to keep up with the play and get to touch the ball before, per the rules, to get a play started. So final seconds ticked off, 000, game ended abruptly. So the final score is 23-17. The Cowboys lose in the most cowboy way possible when it comes to the postseason. But boys, what are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah.
Well, I know a lot of Cowboys fans are upset at how the game ended. But ask yourself, Cowboys fans, should it, with all your talent and with Micah Parsons and Trayvon Diggs on defense, should it have ever gotten to a point when you were down like that, when you were down that badly, 23-7? No, it should not have. It is your own fault. You put yourself in that situation. You have all the talent in the world on offense, a decent O-line, a top 10 quarterback, a top 10 running back, arguably a top 10 receiver, and probably like a top 20 receiver as well. You could switch which is which, and a top 10 tight end. You have no excuses to lose this, and you do. And I'm also going to blame Mike McCarthy for this, because you already know how I feel about Mike McCarthy and his coaching ability or lack thereof. But, let's just flash forward, to when they, at that time, to when they ran the draw play. You ran a draw with 14 seconds left and no timeouts up the middle when everyone's guarding the sidelines and can crash in on you. You don't even try to lateral it to someone who can get out of bounds. You brought that on yourself. And I don't want to hear that the Cowboys were robbed because the umpire, or that ref, that's his position, the umpire, has to touch the ball, has to set the ball before you snap. And the Cowboys seem to have forgotten that rule. It is their own fault they lost. Even Tony Romo pointed it out. And no, I'm sorry, you were not robbed. You quite literally forgot the rules, and it is your own fault. That is all.
How many times I gotta tell y'all? They get in their own way. They're an accident waiting to happen, as Stephen A. Smith once said. Whatever can go wrong will go wrong with this team, no matter what they do. You see them in the regular season, they're all star-studded with Micah Parsons, Amari Cooper, Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, Dalton Schwartz. You'll think, all right, they might do a little something in the playoff. Come playoff time, come crunch time, they disappear. They do a folding act. It is unbelievable how many times they do it. Dak Prescott in big games always falls behind, but always manages to have gaudy stats later on in the game to make it seem like, oh, he was playing really well. No, he wasn't. He played terrible those first 3 quarters. And to be honest, if Jimmy G wasn't such a terrible quarterback in the second half, this game wouldn't have been close because he had Brandon Ayuk wide open. If he gives it to him, that's a touchdown on who else but Trayvon Diggs, who everybody thought was a first-team All-Pro corner. And there were other people more deserving of that, like J.C. Jackson and A.J. Terrell. But we'll get to that. That's another topic for another day. Then, all of a sudden, 14 penalties. They're going to blame the game on one play, on 14 seconds of time, instead of like 14 penalties they've accumulated over time, only scoring 7 points for most of the game throughout 3 quarters of the game. Then all of a sudden they start scoring touchdowns late in the fourth, thinking they had a chance. It's the Cowboys. Mike McCarthy always messes it up for them because he can't manage the game clock properly for them. And then that QB draw should have never been called. It should have never been a priority. If I'm the offensive coordinator, I'm taking shots either to the end zone or taking shots to where my receiver can get his feet inbounds and then immediately go out of bounds so they can take to get another play towards the end zone, or I'm just taking a shot towards the end zone. It was ridiculous from jump to go. Jimmy G kept them in this game, and the Dallas Cowboys had no one to blame but themselves for this loss. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is. It always happens to them. It's no surprise, except to Dallas Cowboys fans.
So this is a team where I looked at it and I said, this team has a lot of talent on both sides of the ball. I kind of discounted the fact that they're the Dallas Cowboys because I thought, I understand what people are saying when they say, well, they're going to choke because they do a lot. But I said, well, that's kind of just lazy analysis because this is a new team from all the years past where they would just choke the game away. And I really had faith that this team would be able to pull it off against the 49ers. I did. I thought they have more talent. The coaching isn't going to be great, but it's not like they have a postseason drought. They've been they're just not a very choky team later in the postseason. They have a few postseason wins, so I thought, okay, they'll win this game and then they'll lose to the Buccaneers and then they'll lose in Cowboys fashion. No, they had to do it this week. They did it this week where they were facing against the 49ers who had only won 10 games and lost 7 games this year and are playing with a quarterback who is barely even a starter right now with Trey Lance breathing down his neck and a team that's been banged up all season long. And they got even more banged up later on in this game when they lost Fred Warner and Nick Bosa for the game, which is, by the way, the same stretch where they started to come back. So the only reason you can make a case, the only reason they actually got back into this game is, number one, what Justin said about Jimmy Garoppolo playing poorly, but also how their both of their best defensive players got hurt. So it's just unbelievable in the play calling. They did not come to play. I don't know what it is with this Dallas Cowboys team, but how does this happen? I even tried to take my bias against the Cowboys out of this, and they still let me down. What the hell is going on with this team? Seriously. I had faith in them. I predicted they would win. I put them in the win column in my bracket for the. Oh my God!
We're all
But
a little bit wiser now.
they screwed up my playoff bracket, and so did the Raiders, because I had faith in them too. But that was kind of a bold prediction. I acknowledge that. But this was just, come on, man, come on! Oh my God! Just another year, another. Oh my God, this Cowboys team. It's just embarrassing.
Riches of talent. 4,000-yard quarterback, 1,000-yard receiver, 1,000-yard running back, 10+ sack linebacker, 11+ interceptions from Trayvon Diggs. Bounced in the first round.
All right.
They don't even.
Well, we do.
They don't even make it to the
Yeah.
round.
All right, guys. Before we end, I would just like to ask the audience one question. How about them Cowboys?
Yeah.
Just checking in to see if y'all still them boys. All right, guys. But we are reaching the end of the show, so we are going to go on to our Fumblerooski fan box. Stay tuned. You are listening to the Fumblerooski podcast. This is the Fumblerooski podcast by Power 88. I'm Adam Wright with Justin Tucker, CJ Medeiros. And so now that we've gotten our rant about the Cowboys out of the way, or our laugh that we got to share, particularly with Justin, I mean, he was having a blast, weren't you?
Yeah.
But we talked about one NL East team, and in our fan box, we are going to go on to another one that also made the playoffs at about, what was it, 10-7? 10-7, 9-8.
9-8.
Yeah, the Eagles.
Some of that.
They were 9-8.
9-8. But they did have an impressive finish to the season. But so they lost in pretty convincing fashion to the Buccaneers. Convincing fashion in the sense that they are just not a very good football team, at least not yet. But so the Fumblerooski fan box, we post a question box every Monday, and you can respond with hot takes, questions, and more, and we will discuss it and give you a shout out on our podcast. Respond to next week's fan box question to be featured on our show. So the question of the week was, what do the Eagles need to do to become contenders? Now, so starting with CJ, he said, bring in a competent GM who can make good moves. I gotta say, and I said this on the page, I don't know if I agree with that, CJ. I think they've actually made.
You could be dazzled by this year's draft as much as you want, but it doesn't change the fact that he had one exceptional year this season. But overall, Howie Roseman is not a good drafter. He signs people to these awful contracts, and it's just the Eagles have a lot of retirements coming, especially with guys like Lane Johnson, Jason Kelsey, Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox. These guys aren't spring chickens anymore, and I'm not sure Howie Roseman's the guy who can replace them. I genuinely don't think that. And also, he probably should have been fired a year or two ago, but I am convinced Howie Roseman has got incriminating pictures of somebody, of one of the higher-ups, because that's got to be the only reason why he still has a job. That is all.
All right.
I am sorry. That's my theory.
I think he's done a pretty good job of drafting. I think he's done all right.
Jalen Reagor, J.J. Arthur-Whiteside.
Dallas Goedert.
Miles Sanders.
Yep, Miles Sanders.
For like every hit, and he's got like 3 misses. This is
he traded for Darius
Slay.
GM. He traded for Darius Slay. That was a pretty good. That was a pretty good move. Jalen Hurts has been
I'm not even
pretty
sold
good
on Jalen Hurts. Come on now.
Devontae
He can run, but his arm, I question it.
All right. Well, anyways, Robert Shelley said God and a new fan base.
No, their fan base is fine. They're a diehard fan base. They need
They're
that
annoying.
They're a passionate fan base.
I'm actually, unfortunately, I live very close to Eagles country. Oh, and they're passionate, all right. I shan't go further about how I feel about their fan base, but if my tone is anything, you can tell.
But you're a Patriots fan. You should expect that.
Nah, I mean, like,
I just think Eagles fans have a lot of nerve to talk any sort of smack to Patriots fans about success just because you won one game. Have you noticed that anytime you create any
them
have you noticed that when we create any sort of argument that is, valid towards an Eagles fan, and they'll just say the final score of Super Bowl 52. They won't put any context, they won't say anything. They'll yell cheaters, or they'll do some stupid stuff like that. There's just no.
Super Bowl 52 is all they have. It's literally all they have. That's like their one thing,
they have to cling on to it.
Good for them. Hey, good for them. They can have it. That's just great. You got one shining moment, and then it's back to the abyss with you.
Also, Tom Brady finally made a catch against them. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah, we saw it.
He makes them when it doesn't count. He makes them when it doesn't count.
Oh well, he made it. So, Secret Weapons Consulting said run the ball, and I gotta say that's not a bad argument. If you
rushing attack,
if you reprioritize this offense and make it run through, make it a run first offense that goes through Miles Sanders and Jalen Hurts, you're gonna get some results out of that. And then you still have Dallas Goedert and what's his name, Devontae Smith to throw to. That's a pretty good team. You just need to figure out that offensive line, maybe shore up that defense, because run first defense are focused on defense and running the ball, but that could be a good idea. But anyways, so you guys have any other thoughts before we end the show here?
Oh.
We them boys.
Ab.
I gotta watch Stephen Smith one more time this week.
His laugh whenever he talks about the Cowboys, the amount of joy in his eyes, man. All right, guys.
Good to see him happy.
All right. Well, you guys enjoy the divisional round. It's going to be a good week. But that'll do it for us tonight. Thank you for listening to us. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check us out on Spotify, Spreaker, and Google Podcast. Also, be sure to follow our Instagram at Fumblerooski_podcast to keep up with our podcast and the latest coverage on the NFL. Otherwise, we will see you next week. Over and out.